students, we are talking about Mary Wollstonecraft. So we're talking about the treatise now and winding up some things, wrapping up some things with Wollstonecraft. So education and then ideas about marriage, which again, she was very forward thinking because marriage that was what most women were expected, that's what they were to prepare themselves for, was marriage. So even if a young girl came from maybe a wealthy family that could afford to hire like a governess or maybe even a teacher that would come to the home and educate them, they were not offered to study the same disciplines as the boys were. And so, I think I mentioned this yesterday, but the things they were taught, young girls were taught, would be maybe poetry, so reading poetry, but sewing, cooking, making a nice home. So it was all about manners, how to act at a party or a dinner, how to prepare yourself for that, how to dress, how to be beautiful, how to be appealing. Those were the things that a young girl, a young teenage girl, was taught. Whereas the boys, whether they were in public education or they had private education, were taught the philosophers. They were taught different languages. They were taught science and mathematics. So it was even those young girls that were able to have an education, it was so unbalanced that her argument was that women were not even given a chance to develop their minds, even if they had the capacity to, even those who were very intellectual and smart, were not giving them the opportunities to develop their minds in the same way that young boys were. So it put women at a huge disadvantage that they were not able to expand their minds and their learning because they didn't get learned. They weren't offered that opportunity. And so she felt that society had they had so dictated the place of a woman that they didn't leave in any room for growth or to change things. And again, very important to understand about her, because I think a lot of times, whether rightly or wrongly, feminists, even modern feminists, are often, there's this idea that they're anti-man or anti-men, or they don't like men. And, they feel like it's men that put women in the position that they're in or make things unequal between the two sexes. And, if there are some feminists that are like that, Mary Wollstonecraft certainly was not one of them, because she very, very, very much upheld the sanctity of marriage, the tradition of marriage. Now, yes, I know she did try to crash one or two marriages. Yes, we know. She didn't always live by. She didn't live what she necessarily wrote. And again, that's not me being judgy, but she was just human, like we all are. And besides that, she was a good proponent of marriage. And so that's another place where education comes in, because her idea was that if a young girl who at some point is going to grow up to be a woman has never been taught anything but how to please a man and how to be pretty for a man, then at some point, even if that young girl who grows up to be a woman finds a successful husband, so she's successful in what she has been taught, and the end goal is met, which is that she meets and marries a rich, successful man who can take care of her. Then at some point, this pretty young woman is going to grow old and not be so attractive and pretty anymore. So then what's going to happen to the marriage? Well, a couple of things can happen. One, and she talks about this, she addresses it. If not in the section I gave you, she certainly does in the full treatise. One is that man, that husband, will find someone younger and prettier. Now, he might not necessarily replace the wife because they may have children together and they're, that gets a little bit sticky and convoluted and all this, but he can have a mistress on the side. And by the way, in this time period, that was not so unusual, and it also was not so frowned upon. That was kind of the expectation to some extent with rich, successful men, that they probably, when they got a little older, would have a mistress on the side. And the woman, the wife, was just expected to kind of look the other way because, after all, she had gotten old and frumpy and not so pretty anymore. So what does she expect her husband to do? So see, that's the lot in life that women found themselves. Now, so Wollstonecraft felt that education was the cornerstone of everything. Education, education, education for everyone. And if education, if a woman was educated or women became educated in the same ways that men were, then number one, a woman, when they grew up, would be able to be independent and self-sufficient. So they wouldn't necessarily need to get married. They wouldn't have to be dependent on a man. So she was all about independence. And so if a woman chose not to be married, then she could fend for herself and take care of herself because she was educated and she would be able to make money that would support herself. The other thing that she felt, again, all ties into marriage, is that if a woman was educated in the same way that a man was, then when that woman who had married the rich, successful man grew old and not so pretty anymore, she had more substance than just a pretty face. So she could still, on many levels, be a good mate to her husband, and that they could actually converse. Okay, they could, because she would have the same, even if she already just from birth had the same mental capacity or intellectual capacity as her husband. The fact that she had been allowed to learn and have the same opportunities as a man when it came to education would allow her to be a better mate to him. He would not get so bored of her because they could actually have conversation and discuss things on an equal playing level, and her not just be pretty but dumbed down because she doesn't know what the heck he's talking about when he's talking about, the writings of Aristotle or something. So that's where education. It was to make everybody happier, to make society more. Okay, thank you. Also, speaking of marriage, she felt that a couple needed to have a foundation of friendship before they ever got married. And so, to have something in common with each other, to be friends, so to really like the person, not just be infatuated with them or be attracted to them because they were so handsome or good looking or your type or whatever, that also would help the marriage, because if the woman was educated, they would have something to always be interested in together and converse about, but then they would also have that friendship, and the friendship most likely would survive and continue even when the attraction maybe waned over the years. And the boredom, there wouldn't be so much boredom setting in a marriage. So to her, that was how you made a successful marriage: an educated woman and a foundation of friendship. So that was pretty much her platform. And not that she doesn't talk about other things, because certainly she does, but I would say the education and a good marriage, and they tied in together. I would like let's look at, I know I put in some extra in here, but I think if we just kind of get through the introduction, that's going to be really the main ideas of all of her treatise. So why don't we do this? I'm going to let y'all just kind of get together and just break down maybe about 10, 15 minutes to analyze different sections of it. So let's see. Glasses keep fogging up and I can't see. Let's see how many parts I have here. How about y'all two can just get together, and Kenneth is not here, but we'll just do 3 groups. So y'all can get together, and then I'll let y'all two get together. Well, and Mallory can get in with the groups. That's from them. Yep. Mallory. I'm gonna do a group work. So you can just get into one of the groups over here, that doesn't matter. We'll have one group of 3. So, okay, you ladies, I'm gonna let y'all in the introduction we're not gonna look at every paragraph. Some of it's almost a little bit repetitious, but trying to find things to just get to the gist of things. I would like for y'all to look at first paragraph of the introduction. There's some really important parts in there. And then skip the second one, but look at the third one, the first and third. And I want you just to come up with the gist of things. Anything that you see to be really important, there's a few things that I thought would be really important in there too. Just kind of make note of it. So guys, this is just kind of analysis. Then I'm going to let, are y'all through? Okay. Then I want y'all to, on page 10 of the introduction, the second full paragraph, which begins with, I wish also to steer clear of an error. Well, I'd like for y'all to look at that. You can skip that next short paragraph, but then look at the next paragraph also that starts with my own sex. I hope will excuse me. And actually, even that next paragraph is short, but there's a pretty good part in there too. So, main idea and gist of it. And then I'm going to let y'all look at on page 11. The first complete paragraph, those 3 nothings, and then do the 2 paragraphs after that as well. Yeah, so do 3 paragraphs. Some good stuff in there. So, we'll just line part together. So anyway, I'll give y'all maybe about 10 minutes, just kind of read through it, analyze, mark things that you find to be noteworthy.